What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, FightfulWrestling.com. We are here to talk 350 days. You guys have heard this guy before, Darren Antola. Darren, how you doing?
Great, Sean. Thanks for having me on again.
Of course. I know pre-orders are available right now for 350 days. This has a lot of big names attached to it. People can, of course, go to 350daysthemovie.com, but we're talking Ted DiBiase, Bret the Hitman Hart, Wendy Richter, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Superstar Billy Graham, Lex Luger. And that's not even half of the names. This obviously just had a ton of work go into it.
Oh, yeah. We started in April of 2013, and it's been a lot of work. The director filmed a lot of guys, and, it's just really tremendous what we have here. It's J.J. Dillon told me at the premiere in New York City, he says, Darren, he goes, you guys are preserving history. You're preserving our history. This is really great. And this tells a story when guys work 350 days a year and twice on Saturday and twice on Sunday. And it's just a special story, human interest story. Wrestling fans are going to love it, but it tells a real story. We have never before seen photographs from fans from around the world. And we're just looking forward to April 2nd. It really helps us if you pre-order now on iTunes, but like you said, Sean, 350daysthemovie.com. You can pre-order right there. It's probably the best, 350daysthemovie.com. And you can like us on Facebook at 350daysthemovie. We'd really appreciate that. And, things are good, and we're just looking forward to April 2nd and having these guys' stories told.
Now, some of those stories are happy stories. Some of them are sad stories. Some of them don't have the best endings. And the title of the film is 350 Days. I mean, that's the schedule. It was just psychotic back then, and it's alleviated somewhat, although we've done a number of analysis pieces on Fightful.com about how with the rights fees increasing to such an extreme degree, WWE could probably afford and may actually do better by reducing their schedule. If rights fees were a thing when so many of these guys were around, how do you think that would alter so many of the stories that were being told in this documentary?
Oh, it would alter it a lot. But I'll tell you something, Sean. I mean, you're a wrestling fan, and did you ever know these guys worked 350 days a year back when you were watching? Back in your days, you know that? I mean, it's amazing that these guys work that many days. And when I tell people that, they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, come on, really? And I says, these guys really work that many days? But it's very hard to compare wrestling the way it is today. These guys are athletes as well. It was truly special in the 70s and 80s, before the internet. And it's just completely different today. It's very hard to compare,
And I mentioned a lot of the names. Since you've spoken to a lot of those people, I'm sure that some of them have went out and done interviews and said things that maybe painted themselves or other people in either positive or negative light. Is there ever a time when you see one of those interviews out there and you're like, oh, I wish they wouldn't have said that, or, hey, that might help things out?
No, not really, because our questions were geared differently. Our questions weren't like who was the booker in Tennessee. It was all human interest type of stuff. So the questions are different, and it's, you can interview somebody now. You're not going to get the same interview as I did. It's just there's so many things that we have that hasn't been duplicated,
I meant more from a PR perspective as you're about to launch a movie, like maybe one of them went out and they said something unfavorable that was like, man, that might not do us so well, or something maybe to the contrary where you're like, hey, that's pretty handy considering we have a movie coming up.
No, I didn't hear anything like that, honestly. I haven't seen anything like that out there. It would be news to me if it was.
And among this eclectic group of names, which one were you most surprised was willing to speak? Because, quite frankly, some of these guys, they don't want to talk. And a lot of times you have some that are pretty chatty.
I'll tell you something. All the guys that we interviewed, they all were special, and they were all animated. When you asked for it, they were very passionate about what they did. I don't think we had one person that sat there and was like, I'm just here for a buck. Let's get it over, kid. Every single one of them were passionate. They seemed to speak from two shoulders. They were very, very honest, and they just love what they did. They just seemed to love it. I mean, everyone was great. Jimmy Snuka, everybody has a different way, a different charisma. Jimmy was special in his own way. Billy Graham could read a telephone book. He's so charismatic. And, Paul Orndorff was great. Brett was tremendous. I mean, every single one of these. Greg Valentine was so funny. You're never going to realize, because Greg's kind of, sometimes he sits around and he's not talkative, he's not chatty at these conventions. I never realized Greg had it in him to be this funny in the movie. When you see this, I mean, he is hilarious in the movie. I've had people telling me, "Boy, I never thought Greg was like that, man. He was tremendous. He kept us and Ox Baker, of course, he's tremendous. I mean, he's going to have you laughing throughout the whole time you're watching."
Now,
tremendous guys.
I know you probably met a lot of people as a result of this film. Were any of these wrestlers people that you had known prior to deciding to do a documentary?
Yeah, me and Jimmy Snuka have been very close for many years. He's been a dear friend, family friend. And me and my wife would go to his house, and we'd stay over there, and he would treat us like family. Yeah, he was like my closest friend, and Valentine and I are pretty close. But we weren't close up until after the movie was filmed. Bobby Rydell brought Greg Valentine to the table, and then Bobby did a great job getting DiBiase and a lot of guys, and he got Wendy Richter for us. He was tremendous with that. But me and Snuka were very close. He was a dear friend.
You mentioned Snuka. There's also George the Animal Steele. There are a few people here who, unfortunately, it may be the last time that an interview of theirs, new footage, surfaces. Maybe explain to me some of the uphill battles in something like that, where you talk to these people, you probably develop a relationship with them, a friendship with them, and they're just not there.
Yeah, it really it's so true what you said. George Steele was so nice to us at his house in Florida, and he was under the weather that day, and he wasn't sure if he was going to make it, and Bobby Rydell goes, "No, he's going to do it. He promised you guys he's going to fight through it. Just give it another 45 minutes." And when we got there, you never even know he was sick. He was just upbeat and great. But you're absolutely right. I mean, you get close to these guys, and I'll tell you what, I believe that we have some of the last interviews for a documentary captured on film. I mean, I know the timing was right. I mean, where would you see Jimmy Snuka in a documentary like this, and George Steele, and so many guys? I mean, we had 6 or 7 pass away now. Larry Sharp was tremendous. He passed away. The Wolfman was great. He died. Angelo Mosca was 99 at the time. Nikolai Volkov, I just saw him over the summer. He died. Like, a lot of these guys are passing away, and it's just very, very sad. That's why we're trying to preserve their history with this film.
I don't think it's much of a secret. Marty Jannetty has somewhat of a checkered past, and sometimes in interviews you don't necessarily know what you're going to get from him. Was that a concern for any of these names, where you're like, hope it pays off, hope it's good? Because wrestlers, that's all. I mean, I would imagine that's part of the story, is the fact that these guys worked so much. You don't know what road they took in life.
Yeah, Marty was good, was fine when we filmed him. I mean, I didn't really have any issues with him or anything like that. I mean, he jokes around a lot, so you don't know when he's joking or if he's having a beer. But I think he was just being Marty, having a good time, joking around. And it wasn't really my concern, because everyone I researched it, all these guys were very serious about doing this. They seemed very Tito Santana. There was really, I didn't have anybody at their house filming them where they were banged up or anything. Nothing like that. They were just very serious. You can almost tell. When I went to Jimmy Snuka's house, he was all dressed up. He was ready for the moment. All these guys seemed to be interested in it. They just seemed like they were really for it, and they enjoyed it. And after the interviews, they would say, "Wow, this is really great. We think you guys are on to something." A couple guys would say, So, no, I didn't experience anything like that. And anybody banged up or on drugs or anything like that while we were filming.
Was there anybody that you were just surprised with, that they were just maybe they didn't live up to a positive or negative reputation that they had? I mean, a person who comes up often is Lex Luger. You hear all these problems in the 90s about him having an ego. Then you hear about people who talk to him these days, and they say complete 180. He couldn't be nicer.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you jogged my memory. Lex Luger, we filmed him in Georgia at his house. He was so nice. He was telling us to go in his refrigerator and get something to eat. He was I said, "No, we're really good." He was nothing like his past. He really, really changed. He's not the same guy as he was when he was younger and arrogant. He was super nice. And I'm going to tell you something else. He didn't even want the money, and we made him take it. That's how incredibly nice Lex Luger was. That's how nice he was.
Other names that more modern fans might even know are involved, like Gangrel. We interviewed him, and
it's great.
I kind of joked with somebody that part of my childhood died when I got a text from Gangrel that said LMAO. I was like, come on. Like, I'm getting LOL texts from a guy who
That's funny.
I watched as a kid. A lot of these
That's
people
funny.
were probably people that you watched growing up, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, all of them were, most of these guys were part of my childhood. I mean, like Greg and Mass Superstar Bill Eadie and Million Dollar Man, Bret Hart, all these guys. All these guys were part of that elite group in the 80s, the Big Boom. And late 70s guys were there too. Like, the Wolfman was great, and that was Fulvio Saussure wanted to get him, and that was great getting him. He was really good. And it's just every single one of them brought something to the table, and it was, and you're going to see this. If you haven't saw this yet, you're going to really appreciate this film when you see it.
And the thing I like is it doesn't just cover one era. It covers several different eras. I mean, some of these people are still wrestling today. I mean, Gangrel is literally still wrestling very often. I did an interview with him last year, and he still stays very, very active. Again, tell the people where they can get a hold of 350 Days when it releases.
It's 350daysthemovie.com. It's best to go right there. You can get a click right there and pre-order on iTunes. It would really help us out if you bought it on iTunes, and the DVD's available. But please go to 350daysthemovie.com and pre-order now and really enjoy yourself. And it's going to be on WrestleMania week, so it's going to be really special.
Some of the names that I hadn't even mentioned before: Bushwhacker Luke. You got Paul Lazenby in there, Stan Hansen, Lanny Poffo. Like, there is something for everybody on this cast list. Darren, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.